when 84-year-old Eleanor Briggs passed away in her home outside Sacramento, California, in January 2019. Her family gathered for what they expected to be a straightforward reading of her will. Eleanor had been clear for years about her wishes. Her modest estate, worth roughly $340,000, would be split evenly between her two adult children, Robert and Diane. The will read at the lawyer's office split everything entirely to Robert. Diane received nothing. Not a single dollar, not a personal item, not even a mention in the document beyond a single line stating she had been adequately provided for during my lifetime. What followed was an investigation that would take nearly 2 years and ultimately expose something far more disturbing than a simple disagreement between siblings. A calculated act of manipulation that had been unfolding for the final 18 months of their mother's life, hidden behind the appearance of devoted caregiving. Eleanor Briggs had lived independently until her early 80s, when declining health required increasing support. Robert, who lived nearby and had recently lost his job, began visiting his mother daily, eventually moving into her home entirely to provide what appeared to be full-time caregiving, an arrangement the family initially viewed as generous and selfless, given Robert's own financial struggles at the time. Diane lived nearly 3 hours away with her own family and visited less frequently, though she maintained regular phone contact with her mother and had no reason to believe anything unusual was occurring during Robert's caregiving period. What Diane didn't know was that Eleanor's original will, drafted nearly a decade earlier, had explicitly and clearly divided the estate equally between both children. A fact confirmed when investigators later located the original document filed with Eleanor's previous attorney, who had retired several years before Eleanor's death. The new will, naming Robert as sole beneficiary, had been drafted just 4 months before Eleanor's death by a different attorney. One Robert had personally selected and arranged, driving his mother to the appointment himself and remaining present, according to office records, for portions of the consultation that should have been conducted privately between attorney and client. Diane's suspicions began almost immediately upon hearing the will's contents, though she initially struggled to articulate exactly what felt wrong beyond the obvious unfairness. She hired an estate litigation attorney who specialized in contested wills, who identified several significant red flags warranting deeper investigation. Medical records obtained through subpoena revealed that Eleanor had been prescribed increasingly strong pain medication for arthritis during the final year of her life, raising legitimate questions about her cognitive clarity during the period the new will was drafted. More significantly, banking records showed a pattern of substantial cash withdrawals from Eleanor's accounts during the 18 months Robert lived in her home. Withdrawals totaling nearly $60,000 that Robert had facilitated using a power of attorney document Eleanor had granted him for what she believed was simply help managing routine bills. The attorney who drafted the final will testify that Eleanor had appeared lucid and had verbally confirmed her wishes during their consultation, though he acknowledged under questioning that he had not independently verified her cognitive state through any medical evaluation, relying instead on his own informal assessment during a single 40-minute meeting. Perhaps most damning, a former part-time caregiver Eleanor had briefly employed before Robert took over full-time care came forward during the investigation, stating she had witnessed Robert repeatedly telling Eleanor in the caregiver's presence that Diane had stopped caring and never really visits because she doesn't care about you anymore. Statements the caregiver described as factually false and designed to systematically damage Eleanor's relationship with her daughter. The case proceeded to a contested probate hearing, where Diane's attorney presented evidence supporting a claim of undue influence, a legal standard requiring proof that Robert had used his position of trust to manipulate his mother's free will regarding the estate. The court heard testimony from multiple witnesses, including extended family members who corroborated the caregiver's account of Robert's pattern of disparaging Diane to their mother, alongside financial records demonstrating Robert's unauthorized use of the power of attorney for personal expenses unrelated to Eleanor's care, including payments toward his own credit card debt. After an 11-month legal process, the probate court ruled in Diane's favor, determining that the final will had indeed been the product of undue influence and was therefore invalid. The court reinstated the original will, dividing the estate equally between both siblings, while separately referring the matter of the unauthorized power of attorney withdrawals to county prosecutors for potential elder financial abuse charges. Robert was ultimately charged with financial elder abuse and pled guilty to a reduced charge in 2021, receiving probation and a restitution order requiring him to repay the misappropriated funds. Though as of his sentencing, he had repaid only a small fraction of the amount owed. Diane has since become involved with elder advocacy organizations in California, specifically working on awareness campaigns about the often invisible signs of elder financial manipulation that can occur even when an aging parent appears to be receiving devoted, loving care. She has stated in interviews that the most painful part of the entire experience was not the financial loss, but learning that her mother's final 18 months had been shaped by deliberate lies designed to isolate her, and that she had lost irreplaceable time with her mother, believing, falsely, that her presence and love were unwanted. Robert and Diane have had no contact since the conclusion of the case. Diane has stated she does not anticipate reconciliation, describing the betrayal as one she does not believe she can move past, regardless of the legal outcome. This has been The Dark Truth Files. If this case troubled you the way it troubled us, share it. Elder manipulation often hides in plain sight, disguised as devotion. Stay vigilant. Check in on aging family members independently, and never assume good intentions without verifying the full picture.